Hello everyone! Welcome. We're gonna have some orange soda and we're gonna talk about Psych Wards. How's that for an intro? Today is Monday, a couple days a week for work. I work at a agency that does advocacy for folks with mental health concerns, and one of those duties is doing advocacy at the state hospital. It's a state hospital for folks with mental health concerns. Probably more colloquially known as an asylum or a state mental hospital. So today was very much a Monday, and it was very much a Monday at a state hospital, and it was very much a rainy Monday. The remains of Florence are flying around Pennsylvania right now. So I thought in the spirit of that, I would come home and have a nice relaxing cigarette and some orange soda. Cynthia Beaumont, holla. Diet Sunkissed. She only drink it out of a can. I get 2 liters because we's po. So it had me thinking about psychiatric units. Now, rather than give you like a day in the life in a psych ward, because you can find some of those out there, it's hard to pick out just one day because they do bleed together. But if you've seen any of my other mental health videos, which there'll probably be a few cards flying around, I've spent time in inpatient psychiatric units. I am a person with a mental health concern, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe, or so, most of which are pretty much in remission. But when they weren't in remission, I needed medical treatment pretty often. And when I say being in the psych ward, just to give a quick breakdown of some different levels of care, today I was at a state mental health hospital. So that's the highest level of care, at least here in Pennsylvania, that we have. I'm thinking that's national. So there's nothing more than that. It's a long-term treatment center. The shortest I've seen somebody stay there is about 3 months. I know that there's some folks who have been there decades. I've seen in other hospitals, and folks I've met who've stayed and been discharged and had been there for decades. So, long-term care. When, you know, try to reassure folks there's no lifers, but you don't know, I guess. There's drug and alcohol treatment centers, which are a little different. They can also be long-term. I've been in some for 3 months plus. I know there's some that are longer. Difference there is that in Pennsylvania, at least, you can't be court-ordered, or not court-ordered, excuse me, involuntarily committed to a drug and alcohol treatment center. So, yeah, there's a rhythm and a routine, and there's a day in the life sort of rhythm to drug and alcohol places, but they're a little bit different than mental health treatment centers. When I'm saying psych ward, the local community hospital, and rural communities, this might not apply to you. You guys get screwed when it comes to mental health care. But if you have a pseudo, you know, large city nearby, they have, you know, the cardiac unit, they have the emergency room, and they may have a behavioral health unit. It's a unit with a locking door. You gotta get buzzed in, you gotta get buzzed out, and it's not just for HIPAA. The folks who are there are not allowed to leave. Some of them anyway. That's what I say when I mean psych ward. It's the behavioral health psychiatric wing of the community hospital, and that's where I've spent my time. I have not been a patient, client, consumer, whatever's friendly, at a state hospital. Have been in a rehab, but that'll be a different video. So trying to put together, you know, what would a typical day be like in an inpatient psych unit. They all kind of blur together. I was in the psych ward about 5 times between 2 different hospitals. I spent 3 stays in one very small hospital. There was only 13 beds on the psych unit. And then the other hospital, there was 20 beds, and I was there twice. This all happened during the course of my illness, so I'm going to say it was within a period of, what was the first time? 2009 to 2012. So in a period of 3 years, I was in about 5 times. And of course, the first is the scariest. Now I would like to explain this sort of in a way that doesn't vilify medical providers, doesn't defend policies that take rights away from people, doesn't defend lackluster nursing or poor bedside manner. Don't want to glorify it either, you know, so that's my big disclaimer. about, I'm just going to try to say, say this for what it is. I did get some help when I was in, some of these places, so I don't want to talk a total amount of shit on them. But I did see some things that could have used some improvement. So, hospital admissions for me were usually hazy. Co-occurring was my shtick. A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. I drank and I was a little nuts. So when I would present for treatment in the emergency room for psychiatric treatment, usually because I was either thinking about hurting myself or had actually hurt myself with the intention of killing myself, I was drunk. 4 out of 5 times I was drunk when I showed up. And I would sit there for about 8 hours, or 9, because you cannot talk to the person who's going to do the assessment about whether or not you're going to be committed involuntarily until you're sober. So I'd sit there all night and eat dry turkey sandwiches with a little packet of mayonnaise, because that's what they all seem to have in every freaking emergency room. And the delegate would come and ask all the same questions that you've been, asked before about, are you thinking of killing yourself? Do you have a plan? Are you hearing anything? The usual questions about suicide, or self-harm. And they kind of try to feel you out a little bit. Usually I needed the treatment. There's 2 ways to get hospitalized in Pennsylvania. There's a 201, which is a voluntary thing. You sign yourself in and you go into the hospital. The next is a 302. A 302 is an involuntary commitment. So it's been decided for you that you are in need of treatment and your opinion does not matter. Often they will give you the opportunity to say, we think you need help. We wish you would sign yourself into the hospital. If you don't, we are going to take the steps to protect you from yourself or protect other people from you, and you will be going into the hospital. So often that option is given, and if a person is reachable and on some level reasonable and have the buy-in that this help will help, they'll do it. Some folks, for any number of reasons, don't agree, and they're involuntarily put in the hospital. So I was always a voluntary, except the first time. The first time they filled out the 302, and then I came to in the morning in this room. I was on a cot. There was like, let's see, there was one little glass window on the door above me. Concrete everywhere. There was a TV on the wall, plastic covering it. There was a remote with like one big button, and it was all plastic. You couldn't even pry it open. So that was my first wake up in the hospital. And I was like, what am I doing here? They were like, well, you said you were going to kill yourself. I'm like, so why'd you take me to a hospital? What the hell are they going to do at a hospital for that? So they took my clothes and they put me in blue pajamas and they took me upstairs to the psych unit. And I would learn from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th that admissions would be hazy. That the first day would usually suck. I would usually stink when I got there because I'd probably been on a bender. The normal, routines of a psych ward is, you get up very early in the morning, especially your first day, because they come in for blood work. So the phlebotomist will come in and shake you awake at 6 o'clock in the morning. And, you're either addled with, like, with me, withdrawal, but some level of madness. And they draw your blood and, then you doze off for a little bit and breakfast is here, and you go look at your tray, and hospital food always smells like ass. It's just, none of it's good. I don't care. Grab the coffee off the tray. It's probably half calf. Meds. So, you don't even know what meds at that point. They'll probably be changed. And then sit around, and they would go over community rules, and, you can't shave. I'm a furball. I only lost this in a shaving accident yesterday. Normally my facial hair grows really fast. I only shave twice a week, and I keep the goatee just because. But, when you're in a hospital for 7 days and you don't shave, you start to look a little wild, especially if you're a furball, like some of us. So, be scruffy, be dirty. They give you those hospital products to shower with. So, I'd go in, have my watered-down coffee, take my pills, sit through the morning meeting about all the rules, no shoelaces, no lighters, your guests can't bring in their phones, no outside food. They don't say it like this, but they pretty much say don't excessively beg for drugs, like Klonopin, Ativan, Xanax, stuff like that. They want you to use positive coping skills first. They want you to attend groups that they have, like arts and crafts, well, recreational therapy or therapeutic recreation. It's arts and crafts, okay? The people that do it are great. They are doing work well below their, you know, like they could be doing more with us, but I don't think the hospital gives them much more than styrofoam cups and finger paints to do with us. So, they could be doing more, but rec therapy turns into making coasters, pretty much. So you go in and out of groups like that. They assign you a staff member to talk to for the day, and they're an aide. They're not a therapist. There are no therapists that work on psych units many times. So you don't actually get therapy. It's, you're kind of being watched, kept busy, and medicated until you're not longer a danger to yourself or somebody else, which is the only reason you're in there. And then when that's gone, you go home and you're returned to the care of your outpatient doctor. So everything I described between breakfast and lunch pretty much happens between lunch and dinner in bed. It's another meal, then some more activities and discussions, then dinner. And you look forward to your meals because you order them on the little hospital menu. They come around with this big computer on a, like a highboy on wheels, and ask you what you want, and, you know, you can order doubles, and I would always order doubles because they would usually switch my medications, and some of the antipsychotic medications that are on the market make you really, really hungry. See this weight loss journey, if you dial back a little bit, you know, one of the reasons I had gained 90 to 100 pounds, food primarily. I mean, no pill is high in calories, but I would have this crazy, artificially induced sense of hunger, kind of like getting the munchies from a lot of the meds I would take. And I would just fiend for, like, sweets and stuff. So, I would be, like, raiding the little pantry. Some psych wards had pantries where they would have, like, graham crackers and oranges and little packets of peanut butter and stuff like that. Powdered hot chocolate. You'd have to ask for the hot water. You couldn't, like, have easy access to it because you could burn yourself. So, I would, like, fiend for that stuff at night. So, that was pretty much, you know, a whole day. There's been books written about how much more specific and detailed these things are. And there are certain parts of it that are, but by and large, it's, you know, wake up, and especially because I was on detox, I'd get my vitals all the time. So, first thing in the morning, you know, the thermometer and the cuff, I almost woke up swinging because of that. So, it was rough. Let's see, myths and facts. There's things you see in movies that are totally untrue, at least in this time and space, and there's things that are completely true. I'm trying to think of, like, popular movies. Nurse Ratched. People like that still exist. Like, from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you still see women like that. And men. You know, there's a lot more men in nursing than you used to see, like, in the old movies. I'm thinking of a popular one, like Girl Interrupted. That was a big one when I was in high school. I was, like, obsessed. I thought I was Susanna Kaysen. I was very dark and disturbed and misunderstood, more importantly. And it got me real far. So, hospitals do have tunnels. I have to say that. The hospital where I do, the state hospital where I work, does have a tunnel system. Does it? They told me it had a tunnel system. Well, if that doesn't, Harrisburg does, or Danville does. At any rate, oh, Danville, I know, definitely does. I had trained at their state hospital in restraint training. They have tunnel systems, so that's not made up stuff. Checks during the night where they come in every 15 minutes, that's not made up. They would come and look and shine the flashlight in when we were sleeping. Let's see, checks were not a myth. They will give you finger foods if they think you're going to hurt yourself while you're on the unit. So if you've been cutting yourself with things you're finding around, pens, you shouldn't be able to find sharps. Sharps are anything that could be sharp. You'll get chicken fingers and fries and nothing to eat it with if you've been bad. There are hospitals that still use restraints. where you'll be four-pointed and tied down. I usually see this with kids more than adults. That's physical restraint. There's something else called chemical restraint. It's kind of a newer way to phrase it, but it is what it is. Basically, there's a hospital locally that says that they are restraint-free. Well, to a degree. They use chemical restraint, which means they will restrain you briefly and hold you down. This is when the big security guards have to stand and actually come over. And then a nurse will come by and inject the person with some medication to calm them or drug them, make them more docile or whatever. And then the person will be escorted to a quiet room. So they're restrained briefly, but chemically, I mean, they might as well be a mummy, because when you have that much Thorazine, Valium, Haldol, whatever's going through your system, you're a wet noodle for like 6 hours. So it's as good as being tied up. So that kind of stuff still happens. People are still held down, hopefully not down, hopefully supported, and then given medication against their will. That does happen. Electroshock therapy still happens. It's called, they refer to it as electroconvulsive therapy now, so it's a little different. It's not like the flopping around like you see in the movies. American Horror Story Asylum, that's the other one I was thinking of. Yeah, they still do ECT. Couple little electrodes, they give you anesthesia and a muscle relaxer. It's a quick zap, resets the brain. I've known people who had it and said it was life-saving. I've known people that have had it and said it has destroyed the functioning of their mind. So, I don't know. I've taken it and said, it's in my mental health advance directive, that if I became very ill, and all drug treatments and non-drug treatments, but that had failed, that it could be given a whirl. I used to say no, but I've known some people who've had success, and if all else failed, yeah, why not? So, those are usually the big kind of scary ones that freak people out. Usually electroshock. There's no wrapping in, there's no hydrotherapy tubs that I can think of that I've seen. You know, there's no wrapping in cold sheets or any of the other, you know, weird stuff. But, yeah. Psych stuff. It's weird stuff. It's nothing I thought I'd ever get into. But, you know, the psych ward is not as scary as a place as I think most people would fear. You know, my parents came in to visit, and it's weird. They would come in, and we would talk with each other awkwardly about what I was doing there. Mostly they would ask what the doctors say, what's this, what's that, what are you doing next, aftercare. And that would be about the first 10 minutes of our, like, hour-long visit. Then I would get a soda, which was, like, gold, because we had a vending machine, so my parents would bring quarters. Mark only came to visit me once. We were roommates at the time, not lovers. And he came, and Mark had his own experiences, so he wasn't shaken by the psych ward. And my parents had seen me, I don't know how many times they had visited me, so they weren't too, you know, put off by going. But after a while, it became like, okay, you're in the hospital to get well. The shock was off of it. So by the end, when my parents would come to see me on, like, my 4th or 5th time there, the routine of, he's in the hospital, what'll the neighbors say? What is that? What kind of people are here? All that shit was over. It was more like, how are you feeling? Are you doing better? Good. Hopefully this goes over soon. What are they in for? Which is so awful and so bad, and it's not a good thing to do, but we would sit there with my parents and say, what did they do? What did they do? What did they do? And to the extent that I knew, I would participate in that discussion. It's petty. It's nothing I do as a professional, because that's not professional. But when I was a consumer, before I understood how disrespectful that probably was, I did it all the time. So that's the full circle of my Monday and what went through my head. I spent the day at a state institution with the rain pouring outside. Got me daydreaming about my own days in the psych ward, and I thought maybe I'd give you guys a little info, however disjointed, and maybe dispel a myth or two along the way. That wasn't the goal of the video, but it kind of found its way in. So, at any rate, I'm going to go back to me and my orange soda, and I'm going to get a shower, and Bandit and I are going to watch something. So, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll catch up with y'all soon. Bye.